Second thing, also from customer shoes, this management sponsorship, which you can find on any slide, it's like, but what does it mean in reality? I think what Victoria said, that's what it means. Like, give the context, on each level. So if you're talking about master data, explain to someone that this is mandatory for tomorrow's reporting, for tomorrow's month closing, for tomorrow's cost allocation, for understanding profitability of your business areas, right? So on the one hand side, can look like a silly, irrelevant job, or on the other hand side, you can explain it as really a prerequisite for everything else that's coming after an ERP. So there is a lot of, I would say, responsibility.
But again, if we have mess in data, mess in our heads, and mess in our operation processes, come on, and any AI will help us. So it could help if we will be moving in that direction, for sure. But just doing nothing, changing nothing, and waiting when it will help, it will save us, it will not.
Welcome to the third episode of the CFO podcast. In this episode we are diving into ERP implementation and operational planning across multiple markets. We're joined by Victoria Yashchenko. This is correct pronunciation, right? Who has extensive experience in operational planning and IT system implementation at Perutnina Group. And Milan Listeš, the new Croatia managing director in Beterna, who brings deep expertise in digital solutions and implementations projects. We'll explore best practices, lessons learned, and how technology and AI are shaping the future of planning and ERP. So hello, Milan and Victoria.
Hi again.
Hi, Victoria.
Shall we start with you, Victoria? It's great to have you with us today. You have a wealth of experience, particularly in operational planning and IT systems implementation. Can you tell us a little bit about your background, your role and Perutnina Group, about your career, and of course, how did you end up in Croatia?
Of course. So I usually describe my career as a bridge between finance, supply chain, a little bit of IT involvement. So I started in finance. Like since 19 years old, I was working in audit in Big Four company. So it was very, very finance initial background. And then I grew up.
In Ukraine, right?
Yes, in Ukraine.
In which city?
Sorry?
In which city did you live?
In Kiev.
In Kiev.
Yep. And I was working in one of the Big Four companies there, and then moved to business because I wanted to be closer to the real operations and the real stuff, not just analyzing what has happened in the past. So yes, and before Perutnina, I was working in MHP. So MHP Group company is nowadays it's the largest European producer of poultry, which purchased Perutnina Group in 2019 or something. But I was working there long before that date. So there I have built my experience not only in finance, but also in building from scratch and running planning cycles, and in rolling out the SAP best practice ERP systems in 2016, 2017. And then I ended up building the integrated business planning department, also from scratch. And that was the natural development, let's say. So the purpose was to find some answers on finance questions. These questions looked like finance, but it appears that the root of these issues were in the way how operations were established. So being the director of integrated business planning in Ukrainian headquarters, I moved to Balkan region in order to implement the same philosophy of IBP, and to also to establish and to participate in ERP implementation. In our case, it was SAP and IBP system as the advanced planning system in particular. And and how I ended up in Croatia, well, at first it's a beautiful country, so it's also one of the small reasons among all the others. And well, basically it was a mix of professional and personal choice. And my families live here right now, so I cannot imagine myself anywhere else except of here for the next several years. So yeah, here I am.
Great. Thank you. Milan, thank you for joining us today, and congratulations on your recent appointment as a managing director of Beterna. You have impressive background in leading implementation projects and working with digital solutions. Can you tell us a little bit about your professional journey and plans for Beterna under your leadership?
Sure. Thank you, Ivana, for the invite, and thanks, Victoria, for this intro. Great to meet you this way also. So, yeah, I started my career in Adacta, which was during the course of years acquired by Biterna, which is my existing currently company. And my whole career development was somehow in the area of data and AI. A little bit of implementation, a little bit of project management. Then I was a head of our department in Croatia and Serbia, managing, let's say, whole P&L. Then ended up a little bit on business development roles. When we merged Biterna, it kind of opened new markets for our expansion. So I was collaborating a lot also with my colleagues in DACH market. And basically, starting tomorrow officially, but already for some time, in a role of managing director for our entity in Croatia, Biterna Croatia. And since how we started in Adriatics, let's say we don't have such a clear, I would say, industrial verticalizations that would take a majority of our focus. So majority of our focus in data and AI was actually finance teams, CFOs, their daily agendas. How can we help their road to cloud, support them with AI, support them with reporting, support them with planning. So basically we touched base many use cases that are on daily agenda of a CFO. So this is how I ended up, let's say, being a lot of in the area and on the events, in especially Croatia and Serbia, around CFO and this whole agenda that we can help them with from technology perspective. If we take a look, everything that I've did, definitely a core focus around everything was understanding customer challenges. This was, either I was sitting in sales, pre-sales, business development, or head of department. I spent majority of my time talking to customers, and then of course translating this into potentially technology solutions. So this is somehow, point how I plan to build a further progress of our team. That's really around customer centricity and continuous learning. So really understanding the challenges, because picture changed a lot. Historically we maybe were dominant in technology know-how, but nowadays this gap of what a customer knows from perspective of technology and what the potential vendor knows from perspective of technology, it's shrinking a lot. So customers know a lot of these days. So
Really?
currently there is a biggest gap, I would say, in technology partners understanding industry expertise that customers have, so we don't lag behind them. We can discuss cash flows, P&Ls, understand cost allocations, and many other aspects that make daily job of a CFO and finance team harder. So this is definitely point number one. Point number two would be growing regionally. There's a tons of potential that Biterna has both in Adriatics and then in DACH and Nordics as new departments. Not to mention Telefonica Tech, which is our, let's say, mother company. Yeah, exactly. These would definitely be two pillars, collaboration and this continuous learning. And as far as my personal motivation, when I stepped into this role, I really received a lot of appreciation from my customers, and this kind of gave me, wings in my back, which kind of when I take a look behind me, like what I did last 10 to 12 years, it kind of proved that, I was in a right path. So I'll just try to continue it. Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting that when you mentioned that customers know a lot nowadays. I see that now, for example, we in our business, IE is helping me a lot in my business, and now I change a lot of things in our, for example, CRM system with the help of ChatGPT, and basically doing IT job. So it really helps with understanding, and especially in very complex businesses like Victoria was involved in production. Really, the IT team really, if it's external, it's very very complex business, and it's really difficult to understand it. When you both compare now, Victoria, you worked in Ukraine, and you came to Balkans. Milan, you have experience. You have clients in DACH and Nordics. How do we stand now in Adriatics and Southeastern Europe in terms of business process maturity, and in general, how much are companies aware of the need for digitalization? How much do they invest? And at the end, are they successful in these projects?
Okay, I think I can start. So, speaking about Ukraine in particular, well, I was working in big companies, so they were heavily invested in ERP system, in different type of ERP systems. So, based on this experience and observations, I would say that before the war and even during the war, when it started, Ukraine was moving quite fast, maybe sometimes even too fast. So the specific of the Ukrainian business is and entrepreneurship and big businesses is really the, how to say, maybe absence or lack of the bureaucracy in processes and describing how the things are going on. But at the same time, even big companies tend to make decisions fast and to try lots of new businesses or new decisions or new even systems at once. So that is the main difference, what I mentioned between Ukrainian market and Balkan region.
So we are very slow.
Well, it doesn't mean it is bad always. So, okay, in some cases, some construction works, or sometimes people tend to work, till 4 p.m. and then goodbye, and then and all August nobody works at all. But I'm not about that. So sometimes this very high speed of making decisions for Ukrainian companies did also play not very well. So, for example, in my personal experience, we had one unsuccessful project. I think I mentioned that experience to you before. So, but that was the good case actually. So almost a year was spent on analyzing how the one of ERP systems will be set it up. And a year was spent on thinking whether the processes are at all exist and how to match these processes in real life and what that ERP system can afford. And at the end, so when the company started this project, there were no understanding of the necessary number of people and key users who should be in place, who will take decisions as process owners on each step, and what is process owner at all? What does it mean? So that's why it was decided okay, we need some system because we're big. Let's chat with these guys and that guys. And then it was just chatting in collaboration, very active, but very with not very fruitful results. At the end, it was clear that, unfortunately, that industry-specific requirements are not covered by that system, and the project was closed. And then a couple of years more were spent on reassessing how to do differently. So how to prepare the business and key users and top managers that these ERP story is something expensive, long lasting, and which qualities it is require. So in this case, this speed in decision making was not the best ally of Ukrainians. But yeah, basically this, from my perspective, this is the main difference. So sometimes my native market can do 3 decisions and then reverse 2 of them, while Croatians or...
But I think that this also is usual in Croatia, isn't it, Milan?
Yeah, I mean, you described it very well, and I think it's always good to have this outside-in view, where I kind of live something day by day, and then maybe don't understand like what's happening. But I'm trying to look at it from positive side. So in the last couple of years, I would say that trend is really super positive, and even Croatia as a market kind of changed completely, especially thanks to a couple of unicorns that we were able to provide, and then I would say it changes even a technology roadmap for the other countries totally, both in terms of people that you can attract to your country, and then again speed that other companies need to follow if they want to be on a same track, right? And get the employees. So now when I take a look even at maybe younger, more agile companies that are fast growing, going on emerging markets, I have a feeling that they make decisions much quicker. So I really think you can find both in Croatia. And for your question, Ivana, in DACH, I also seen both extremes, I would say. So there are definitely really large companies, digitally advanced, that basically are implementing everything by the book, and you can just take a look at them and learn in terms of how things should be done. But then on the other hand side, I also realized that since the market is so huge, there are still companies that are, let's say, executing perfectly on a manufacturing layer. So really like global leaders in something they produce, but there was no focus on digitalization at all. So I've been, I've had a chance to talk with 5 billion revenue companies that are maybe just moving away from family management into a professional management, who are appointing CIOs for maybe a first time, where digital landscape is scattered all over the globe, 20 plus ERP systems, no reporting, etc. But then again, there's a lot of potential in this, right? So I would definitely say that the larger market brings both of the extremes on the table.
Okay. Victoria, you're responsible for operational planning in multiple markets in the industry with very fluctuating demand. How that changed during your career, and what do you see now? How this company or other companies you are seeing, how far in advance they plan, and how far advance should they plan actually, and adjust their forecasts?
Well, I can speak about planning all day. Well, at first, let me emphasize that integrated business planning, it's not only operational planning, it's and my personal goal to build and to drive these changes into the operational plan, when connection between operational targets with financial numbers will be as close as possible. So IBP is advanced sales and operations planning, when the end chain of the process is financial scenarios.
Yes.
So to describe it like overall, so in the early stages of my career, like oh my God, it's more like 18 years ago. So in finance, we were focusing on budget, yearly 5 years budget. So it was absolutely different point of view, let's say, of how to understand the how to calculate the scenarios for strategy and how to monitor whether company is going to the right direction. So with IBP, and actually last 7 years, maybe more. But I'm talking about Ukrainian market and Balkan, because, for example, Germany or USA could do it earlier. But the market conditions require more rolling forecast. So it's not about one per year to make something and some plan and to pray that it will be at least to have some sense in the
in
6
the 12 months.
Are those forecasts now new normal thing? Because when I was in audit 15 years ago, there was also talk about rolling forecast, and is that now normal thing?
Yes, but not typical financial rolling forecast. In why I so love this IBP topic, because it's really philosophy. So it's straightforward thinking. So you always should start from from assessing the demand plan. It could be from 4 months to 18 months. And by assessing demand, I mean mathematical models, actually, with which this advanced planning system could help very much. And the building the communication with sales team and with marketing team in a way that it would be the most efficient path to obtain necessary data. So mathematics plus communication and the external market information, that is the ground for the first driver of the planning. So demand plan should change on a monthly basis, in some industries even weekly basis, and always rolling forward for several months or 18 months. The next step is the understanding the constraints. It could be raw material constraints. Again, it's industry specific, and I can talk about morphology of chicken or beef also quite a long time. But classic constraints is the equipment of production equipment, right? And then purchasing, and then financial assessment goes when all the numbers are balanced and click together to make the whole story. So that's what rolling planning, what I call the ideal process of rolling forecasting, rolling planning, because it involves all departments in preparation of this data. It requires alignment and getting the consensus on each other. So, and of course, ideally to understand how to build that kind of process in Excel, and then to implement some nice sophisticated system to keep it on the high level. Speaking about markets, well, my main experience was connected with, again, chicken and chicken related products. And markets behave really differently, and lots of external factors influencing on that. So if you're able to forecast and use mathematic knowledge and approach for classic demand planning in local markets like Croatia, Slovenia, for example, or Serbia or Ukraine, so it's manageable to use mathematic plus in knowledge. While export markets, they play a little bit differently, because from one perspective we do know that cultural thing in terms of and behavioral influence very much, so each nation prefers different types of products, but also some external uncontrolled event influencing, like government relations or some kind of flu. So you could calculate perfectly, but tomorrow the border will be closed and you're just unable to export physically the goods at all, just because something changed in political perspective, for example. So yeah, that's that's why the planning of different markets is really different. There are some common of course, common things, and which could be aligned. But overall, it's especially in last 4 years. So when the war started, it influenced significantly on all areas and all industries. So it's survival mode. Some interesting topic which could be disclosed separately.
Yeah, so Milan, so she explained, Victoria explained really extreme circumstances from war to all kinds of crises. How are your clients dealing with these challenges in operational and financial planning? And how can you help with your technology to manage this? And can you help them to develop various scenarios? If, for example, the government or whatever, the war or something like.
Okay, so yeah, this is this is a very interesting topic for me. So let's put it this way: ground based. So let's say starting point today in or maybe 3 years ago in Adriatics was definitely, companies are planning in Excel. So even if they have a certain integrated business planning or consolidation tool, this tool is being used by just a handful of people in controlling department, while the rest of 100 or 200 people who actually do plan things were still living in Excel, right? So this fact, as a consequence, has tons of manual effort, complex process in terms of overhead that's on controlling department, and data quality. So like if you would sit in a chair of a head of controlling, probably the most stressful part of the work will be even preparing templates to start the process planning, before anything happened. So this content, this context that they don't have a consolidated data, that you need to extract it, clean it up, add new items and things like that, it would even, kill the energy and the and the mentality even before they start. Nevertheless, things have been changing, of course, due to Biternas and some other vendors' support on the market, I would say. But the fact is that business context is extremely different. I remember one of the first projects we sold in this area together with our partner was like top 3 brands regionally in Croatian holding company. And they spent like 15 or 20 pages in their annual report explaining the consequences of raw material changes and electricity changes. So this was such a huge event. Not, I would say, not happening like once in 10 years, but not happening that often, that you would actually have to describe your owners and the other shareholders, like, how did you manage this situation? 3 years forward, they probably bump into this situation like 5 times a year. And they have to react it. You want to talk about coffee raw material prices, cocoa supply chain challenges, transportation cost raises, electricity, etc., etc. So yeah, it became really, really a complex and dynamic environment, and both of these things together with the technology, I would say, really enable the companies that they're all moving in same direction. In some of the cases, this is, as Victoria said, like rolling forecast setup. But then again, some of the companies don't approach it this way, but they're just able to do the scenario planning like 3 times a year if it's required. So it's not like necessarily that everyone is engaging into rolling forecast, or they have 3 quarterly updates, or first estimates and last estimates. But nevertheless, the technology, I would say, together with the business context, really helped companies to do these scenarios much, much more easily. When I say much more easily, I'm really talking about translating weeks of job into a day of job as an end goal, obviously.
Well, I would add, so my feeling regarding the market, so I was in charge of rolling the project in Serbia, Croatia at first, and Serbia and Slovenia, that and also communicate with different with my employees who came from different companies, that currently these Balkan regions and maybe Ukrainian market as well, they are on the same page in terms of the stage of the readiness for implementation of the system. So some of them already have, at least in Excel, something, some established process. Of course, there will be companies in tail of this process who still thinks it is like not necessary so far, and these phone calls, it's much more faster to resolve the issues, and who needs this rolling forecast. But overall, my understanding that next couple of years would be gradual, maybe even in some cases a high increase in demand for the systems, because what I was describing the industry specific issues which I faced, they really required these addition. So we managed to build and to describe how it should work, but we were lacking of time and resources to provide in very fast manner different scenarios in case of some of risks realized suddenly. So yeah, without system. So it's impossible to implement the system not knowing how the process is supposed to work, at least in Excel or on paper. But when this first step is done, and there are some people with business acumen who is able to explain what they need for to IT solution provider, so that's definitely one way direction, let's say, that companies should moving forward.
That's a fair point. I mentioned Excel as, let's say, only a negative context, but if someone is planning in Excel, at least it means that they have documented their process with tons of formulas, etc., etc. So it is a good starting point to move forward.
Yeah, Victoria, you mentioned the example of company that decided very quickly on the new system, and that was wrong. So, what do you think? What needs to be in place? What are in the company when they are when they are thinking of implementing a new system?
Interesting question. Well, when I was thinking about that, I was reminding myself my experience like 10 years ago and 3 years ago. So I have two type of experiences when resources were not taken into account at all. And it was planned that we have system, we have IT providers, and we have day and nights. And so we were working like, I don't know, 18 hours per day for several months. But somehow we managed so it was obviously not ideal example, and do not repeat my mistakes, but I have an experience working in that condition, and and obviously from year to year the management team was more experienced, so the different approach was taken for the recent ERP implementations. And well, the main well, the very first simple rule, you should not start with the system. So the system is the second step. At first, you need to understand that people matters and experience matters, and the expectations really important. So when the expectations of top management who brings this decision on the table that we need ERP, they supposed to really deeply understand that this is expensive, and that the outcomes and the return on investment will not be from the first months of implementation. So the first year or two, depending on the size of the company, it will be a really expensive journey, which will require additional staff, additional money, and they should be very transparent and clear why this decision is taken. So the ERP system should be the project for implementation big systems should be understandable why we are doing this. So either it's scale, or the current system is not able to cover the operations, they're too complicated for what we need to account and to manage. So that's why the understanding of necessary resource, monetary and people, is the first step. By people, it's also it was hard lesson. Maybe it was obvious for some other markets, I don't know, but for me personally, it was hard lesson that people who supposed to be involved and be the power of implementation, the main power, they should be absolutely free from operational work. So that should ideal, or like sort of
That should be their only job.
yes. So they ideally 30% of that team or future implementation team should have experience in ERP, in working in ERP system which is going to be implemented, at least have some trainings and understanding how it looks like, to avoid this shock when the interface absolutely new and different. And others should have really deep knowledge of the company specific and industry specific to be able to describe the business, how it should work, to IT guys who will help with implementation. And yeah, so that is the main thing, because current existing on the market IT solutions, they are really sophisticated, and they even each year they're developing even more. So, and usually the issue not in the system, it's in the way how the business prepares itself and what they expect from the system in terms of time, money, and people. So that is the only secret, let's say.
Milan, what are some best practices you saw with your clients? What the best companies do when they are preparing for new systems?
Yeah, honestly, I think what Victoria said is like super important. So technology partners, of course, struggle with their challenges balancing people and multiple projects, etc. But in the end of the day, it really is, let's say, our only job. While on the other hand side, when you enter an organization, especially on a larger scale, these people, it's so hard to find and dedicate them time and focus really for the ERP implementation, while in reality, as much as we spend, probably the customer is going to spend the same amount of time during this whole course of a project. Second thing, also from customer shoes, this management sponsorship, which you can find on any slide, it's like, but what does it mean in reality? I think what Victoria said, that's what it means. Like, give the context, on each level. So if you're talking about master data, explain to someone that this is mandatory for tomorrow's reporting, for tomorrow's month closing, for tomorrow's cost allocation, for understanding profitability of your business areas, right? So on the one hand side, it can look like a silly, irrelevant job, or on the other hand side, you can explain it as really a prerequisite for everything else that's coming after an ERP. So there is a lot of, I would say, responsibility of how you prepare the company internally. Other than that, I would say that definitely you have to meet the market in terms of understand the offering and the partners and the technologies, and map this wisely to your processes. Sometimes you really do map process to technology. Sometimes you do the other way around, right? You take the global knowledge, embed it into systems like SAP or Dynamics, Microsoft, and you really need to give up from something that you've been doing up until yesterday, in order to fit to something which is globally accepted. This is a challenge where I would say a lot of companies face difficulties.
Yeah, that's really common thing when the company said that we are unique. We have so unique processes, so we need to develop and redevelop and to build new system to cover all these strange connections between us.
Yeah, I think that 100% of the meetings started with a sentence, we're special. And I say, of course you are, because otherwise you wouldn't exist on the market, right? So for sure you have something, but it is interesting. So back to the topic. On top of this, deciding on how do you fit with the technology, I would say that customers usually pick a reference visit. In such a huge topics as ERP, it's kind of harder to do a POC or something like that. So actually meeting a customer from a similar or same industry and really understanding how they leverage this technology is probably the closest you can get to understanding how this may impact your organization. And the last question is, maybe it's a bit high level, but I'm thinking about how you would scale. So if this is an organization which is going to scale, of course you don't know like by heart, but you can at least have a feeling on your plans in the next few years. I think you need to take care that this technology can not just scale, but scale easily. In terms of you don't kill yourself over a new implementation, or you can't find a partner in a certain country, etc., etc. So these issues, I would say, are usually much lower with global solutions if you go this direction. But yeah, nevertheless, I would say these are few bullets that customers need to take care just to minimize, I would say, the risk of failing.
Okay. Victoria, implementation, managing a team of people, forcing them to change everything, what they've done, to do it differently. What are the key leadership traits or qualities that a project leader needs to survive the project?
Well, from the hardest point probably. So the leader who ultimately is responsible for the implementation, who initiated, probably he needs or she needs to really trust in all project and target and in what he or she is doing. So it very feels, so when it's artificially, and it was, for example, headquarters said, okay, you need to implement something, and the local management who is responsible for implementation really does not understand why it is necessary, it feels. So even if they speak to the team that okay, let's go, so the people who involved in the daily implementation operations, they feel that. So you need to be very passionate and honest if you are the key sponsor of this project and key responsible employee. So that really matters. From some working insights, so I would say that obviously clear governance should be in place. So who decides what, who is responsible for which part, and how it influence from smallest like remuneration of the employee till how it will influence for in future on everyday work or on process which this employee is responsible for. That should be discussed, and very maybe there is no point to waste too much time for process describing, but in some way, in very understandable way, it should be in project team, it should be established. And early quick wins. So ideally to in long term projects, some short distances and some quick wins at the end of each distance should be how to say, named and recognized. So
Celebrated.
yeah. So not to lose the motivation of the core team to
Yeah,
really be involved, especially in the
very good point.
beginning of the projects. So maybe that.
Milan, on your side, you also have project leaders, and clients can be very tough mostly. So, what competencies do they need, and how do you measure the performance of your project leaders? And also, how do you help clients when the system is finished, but it's not actually fully operational, and it really takes some time to take to completely take every pore of the company. How can you? How do you help your clients in that?
Yeah, so project leaders, depending on a project, obviously, sometimes more there's a more focus on a project manager. Sometimes there is a more focus on some solution architect or a senior consultant or whatever. But if you talk in general, I would say they really need to, understand how to manage different stakeholders. It really is a people skill. Like, on a customer side, you really have at least 10 to 15 people you're going to communicate with, everyone with their own different background, with their own personal aspirations, different communication styles and things like that. So you really need to be, let's say, a hub of a person in terms of understanding everyone else. So this is, I would say, just on a basic people side. Then on technology side, I think you need to have like basic understanding of technology concepts, not in the terms of like you're gonna do it all your own, but really in the terms of, where does it make sense to integrate, where does it make sense to do something internally, or to partner or whatever. So really on a high level, so you can pull the right moves. And definitely number one, from my perspective, would be, as mentioned in the beginning, this is business understanding. So we had also discussions recently, for example, with Perutnina. So I just sniffed the complexity of such an organization. So of course, none of our consultants can be an expert in poultry manufacturing, not in 1 hour, not in 2 months. But you need to quickly be able to grasp key concepts and talk with them, right? So you cannot allow yourself that Victoria explains you 4 times, what is the first step of a manufacturing process and, what are the pitfalls, etc., etc. So there is this challenge because obviously we tackle with multiple industries. So on the one side, it is a challenge for people, but on the other hand side, I would say it's a benefit or a blessing in terms of you can really sit in a one chair and deal business and consult multiple industries. But it is a skill set that people need to have. And second part of your question, if I understood it well, you asked like how do we manage if project is successful? Was this the question?
No, my question was that it can happen. For example, it happened to us when the project was finished, but it's not very. It wasn't active, not very active in the processes. And actually, now, for example, in our case, after 2 or 3 years, now I'm using my CRM completely with the help of AI. So that was my question. How can you help when the project is finished, but actually it's not very...
It's a great question, but it really depends a lot on a solution that you're implementing, right? At least my experience. This is why I'm glad you mentioned CRM. So I would say there is a difference between implementations of ERP solution, right? Where like if you're moving to a new ERP, if you have a go live date, you just need to have certain processes up and running. There's a lot of testing, user acceptance tests, and periods that you really need to make sure, if you are posting your business events in a new system on a day one, that actually these things are in a good shape. Of course, still people can feel insecure or have some doubts. You work with them a lot. You sit together, repeat a workshop or whatever is necessary. But on the other hand side, there are systems that I would say don't have such a strict go live dates. I'm coming from a business reporting background, where usually if a system is not up and running, you're just gonna create a new report in Excel as you did like a few years back. So these transfers are tricky, especially if implementation partner and your management decides to go with, let's say, popular concept usually is, let's go with a core solution or minimum viable product, so we go live pretty fast, but you're not going to actually have all the functionalities that you need, And then on the one side, you have the successful project, it's on time, it's on budget, but on the other hand side, people are not happy with what they have in their hands. So it is a super tricky situation. It's there is no answer like one size fits all, but really deciding on what is the key scope that people need to have in their hands before starting to use a system, and then making sure you really sit with them. For example, we like really sit a lot with customers during, let's say, first planning, supporting their first planning cycle, for example, when we implement FP&A tools. So we really like sit together, chair to chair, and see how should this planning look like, etc. So this is one of the skills, but it really depends on a product and a technology.
Okay. And final question: can AI help us in all this? From the selection, preparing the company for the new system, and of course implementation, and this final stage to full usage.
Victoria,
It's a hard question.
would you go?
Well, I would say as of today, without person behind this tool, AI tool will not help for sure. And do I believe that AI will take more part in everyday life? And for example, what we have now, so when in BI systems, these inbuilt AI agents already try to give some explanations of the numbers or some insights which we see. So it's working, yes. But if the company hasn't any established processes, messy master data, and people who are not ready to leave behind their habits and the way they worked 10 years ago, well, we still can conquer AI easily. So it will be just turned off by these people. So
AI will give up.
Yes. Or insights which this AI or solutions or calculations which this poor AI agent will provide based on data it will eat. So or it will provide. That would be disaster. So definitely is future in that development for sure, but it heavily depends on the stage of the development of the company which is trying to implement.
Like for example, we in my company we are documenting our processes and uploading to ChatGPT. And when I have a question, I ask ChatGPT and I get instant answer. And I tell it everybody in my team, you don't have to read hundreds of pages, you get the answer.
Well, sometimes ChatGPT is hallucinating still. So, and this again, this is the language model. So, this one of the Milan knows better how to explain this technical point.
I'll try.
Anyway, that's only part of questions which this type of AI could deal with. But speaking about, again, my favorite topic about planning, so what people tend to call AI is usually some algorithm of machine learning and some
prediction.
Yes, so it's not AI, and but it is easy to call by these two letters everything. But again, if we have mess in data, mess in our heads, and mess in our operation processes, come on, and any AI will help us. So it could help if we will be moving in that direction. For sure, but just doing nothing, changing nothing, and waiting when it will help, it will save us, it will not.
No, this is everything that you said is 100% truth. But I'm still a huge believer in potential of AI if consumed properly, because you're right. Today you can put a name tag AI on anything, and then a person can just taste it, get disappointed, and say, yeah, this is not a solution to my problem. So we really need to be cautious, where do we use it and how do we use it?
Sorry, I will interrupt you. When the companies using Copilot, for example, or ChatGPT for making the emails, and they then saying on some forums or on some social media that, okay, we now implement AI, so we're using this technology heavily. So, okay, that's not very true. So let's distinguish between points and
no, this is a very fair point, and I think it's important to distinguish, ChatGPT started this whole new conversation around these large language models. But all of this goes, let's say, into bucket of generative AI. Why generative? Because it kind of generates something that didn't exist before that, or at least didn't exist in this combination of a text, right? But way back there was this whole world of predictive AI, which was and still is being used in multiple scenarios. And this is one of the areas where I am a strong believer, because we have great experience from a market. So let's say in this whole supply chain planning area, we really developed dedicated solution where we kind of try to help companies predict sales, predict demand, help them recommend their order quantities, help them move goods from store to store if it's a retail, help them organize even a manufacturing schedule of the manufacturing plant. So during this 5 years that we spent on this topic, we understood that there is basically huge potential that companies that are dealing with stock can have from utilizing machine learning in these areas. But it requires absolutely everything that you said, Victoria. So from data cleanup, master data, integrating maybe external data sets like market trends, etc. But then on top of it, I would say this generative AI is really going to be also a huge productivity booster if consumed properly, if checked by a human once again, etc. So there really are use cases where we see a great progress and great development. And there's always this sentence stuck in my mind that a colleague of mine told me, like, what we're using today, like on the last day of September, is probably the worst AI will be using. So progress is crazy in these terms. And for example, I'm using this Copilot, so embedded into our Microsoft Office platform, and really usability of it from last year up until today, the progress is really crazy. You still can't rely on it fully, right?
Yeah.
But I would say productivity increase once we learn how to use it is really going to be visible.
Great. Yeah. Okay, 1 hour flew, just flew. So we will wrap this episode. Thank you, Victoria and Milan, for sharing your experience and insights. And I'm sure our audience will find this very valuable and useful, and make them think about their their processes.
Hope so too. Thank you for invitation.
Thank you, Ivana, for your time, and thanks, Victoria, for sharing all of this
Thank you.
insights.
It was nice to meet
Bye
you.
bye.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Have a nice day.